Today I will be recording a flight from Eindhoven to Dusseldorf. This is in no way a tutorial, but just a demonstration of the cockpit at this stage of the building. We are parked at gate G1 and the plane is in complete cold and dark mode. You can see from the navigation monitor that everything is totally off. I will be using a typical FSX checklist that I've downloaded from the internet. The flight is rather short, nevertheless I will divide the session in three different parts. The first part, tonight's part, will be about startup and taxi to the runway, and then takeoff and climbing will be next part, and then there will be different parts. So let's get started with the preparation of the overhead. Now bear in mind, because I don't have an actual overhead just yet, I'm using a monitor to display it. I will try to make it as clear as possible and show you each switch by pointing it also with my finger, and not just so that you won't have to just follow the mouse. We're going to start by switching the batteries on and give a little bit of life to this cockpit and the overhead panel. DC voltmeter will set it to battery, and we need to make sure that there is at least 22 volts. Right now we have 25 volts, it can change, but it is at least 22 and that's good enough. AC voltmeter will put it to ground power. The standby powers will need to make sure that they're all guarded, and that's okay. Ground power on. Position light on. Left fuel pump on. And the navigational monitors have just come on. Now they're not online and only the captain side is on, but at least they've come on, they're no longer black. At this point we'll start the APU. And if you listen carefully, you can hear the APU coming up. Now, once this light is lighted, then we can start switching the APU generators. It'll take just a few seconds. And there we go. We'll start with the left one. And now the right one. The AC voltmeter selector now we'll put to APU gen, this one here. And we need to make sure that we have at least 115 volts and we have about 120. APU bleed on. At this point we'll quickly switch to the other panel, and we're going to align our IRS. So the two switches here that at the moment are off, they'll have to go both of them on nav. And then on the top display here, if we look at the display, it tells us that there is 9 more minutes before everything is going to be aligned. So since we need to spend time to finish the overhead, let's go back to the forward overhead and continue with the setup. The recirculations fan, both of them will go to auto, and the left and right packs also to auto. You can hear the air conditioning going through. Emergency exit lights guarded. Non-smoking signs on. Flight control switches A and B, both of them guarded. Spoilers, both of them guarded. And yaw damper on. VHF nav, IRS and FMC, all of them are set to normal. That's correct. Displays source set to auto, and the control panel set to normal. Belt sign on, all 4 windows appear all of them on, and make sure that you have 4 green lights. Engine hydraulic pumps on, both the left one and the right one. Trimmer set to on, isolation valve open, and engine bleed switches on, both of them. And some outside lights, so we'll put the wing and the wheel, anti-collision, logo and strobe. Now we're going to enter all the information in the FMC, and we're going to use the flight plan that we've made earlier. So we'll click on FMC and on the position page, and we are going to enter the code for the departure airport. That is EHEH. I will enter it here, and at gate G1. Now we need to set the IRS. So what we do is, because we already have the address of the gate G1, we just copy that in the scratch pad and we enter in the IRS side. Then we select route, and we need to put the departure airport. We already have it in the scratch pad, so all we have to do is destination airport is EDDL, and we are entering it on the right side. You can actually hear the crew announcements and the flight number. We put it in here. Then we go to the next page, and at this point we actually enter the route. First point, it's LNO, and we get there through airway UM170. Next we're going to Canon. The navigational displays just came fully live. Everything is completely aligned via UZ907. Next point is ELDAR. And we'll get there through airway T857. Big move. So this is the route. We're going to activate it, and now you can see the light on the execution button came up, so we're going to execute it. At this point we go to the departure and arrival page. We'll select the departure appear on the top left, and we know we are going to depart based on the winds for the day, runway 21, and we'll select as a SID the top one. And we're going to execute. We go back into the departure and arrival page, and this time we select the arrival. Now, to be careful, there are two arrival here on the monitor. We'll select the second one, which is beside the arrival airport code. And over there we have runway 05R. We're going to make an ILS landing, and we are also going to select the star, and again is this first one here. This information I basically took them from FSC Commander when I built the route. We're going to execute this again to the Lex page, and we're going to check for discontinuities. Now we have 4 pages, we need to check all 4 of them. The first page seems okay, second one also okay, third one we have a problem, so we're going to take this NATO's point and copy it on top, execute again, and quick look at the last page, also fine. Okay, so we're done with that. Now on this page we put all the weights. We'll start with the gross weight is about 139,000 pounds. That would be 69.7 tons. And we put it on top here. The fuel is in. Now the reserve fuel, we have 6,515 pounds, and that is 3.25 tons. The cost index, considering this is a virtual airline and we don't care about the costs, we're going to use a reference code of 50 this time. 50 will give us a slightly higher speeds. Cruising altitude is 11,000 feet, and transition altitude is already in 3,000 feet. We're going to execute, go to the N1 page, and directly to the takeoff. We're going to use flaps 5. We are going to, is giving us already the V1, VR and V2 speed, so all we have to do is copy them from this column into this. And to do that, you just double click beside each one of them. Here we go. Now it's time to set up the MCP. The flight director switch is on. Very important that they're on both sides, captain side and first officer side. Auto throttle off. Speed indicator set. We're going to set this to the V2 speed, which was 150. Heading selector, we are taking off from runway 21, so it's 210. Altitude, our transition altitude is of 3,000, so we'll set this to 3,000. The disengage button on. Fuel flow reset. Auto brakes to RTO. Back to our overhead panel. We're now going to go through the before pushback and ready for pushback checklist. All the fuel pumps on. Hydraulic A pump off and hydraulic B pump on. Now I'm going to make a pushback request to ATC, and while the aircraft is start pulling back from the gate, we will begin to start the engines. Okay, we're starting now the engines. We're going to start with the right engine. And as soon as this gauge gets to roughly around 2.4, 2.5, I will bring up the fuel valve on the throttle. And here we go. Now we're gonna wait for the engine to stabilize and for the start switch to go back to the off position. And then we'll start with the other engine. Okay, the start switch has gone back to off. Now we start with the left engine. Okay, fuel valve open. Just waiting for the engine to stabilize and for the start switch to go back to the off position. Okay. Just before we begin taxiing towards the runway, few more checks on our overhead panel. We're gonna switch on the engine generator switches. This is the left one and the right one. Hydraulic A pump on. AC voltmeter selector to either Gen 1 or Gen 2, doesn't matter. APU bleed switch off. APU off. And now you can hear the noise of the APU going down. The probe heat switch left and right on. Double check that all the lights are going out. Left and right packs to auto. Taxi lights on. We're just about to start taxiing towards the runway. In the preparation of the CDU, we've set the takeoff flaps to 5. So what we're going to do is now, just before we start taxiing, we set them also to 5. And here we go. And now we are basically ready to start taxiing. Parking brakes off. A little bit of power, and very slowly we'll start moving out. The good thing about Eindhoven airport that is very small and the runway is just around the corner.